Your media, where you are.
Hello and welcome to Your Media's Big Words. And today we're talking about women in sports, right? This month I wanted to profile women in sports, particularly because there's a lot going on, both good, bad, and maybe intermediate. They'll explain to us how the industry's been treating them. And I really wanted to get some ladies who have some insight and can give us input in what it's like to be a woman in sports. I've got a panel of guests with me. I had to make a plan and hunt down some very, very big names. I was telling them that I feel nervous, and I still feel nervous, but I'm going to introduce them right now. I've got Moonira Ramathula, an entrepreneur, founder of Footballing Girls and Women in Sports Awards, all right? And Pinky Matjekane, former Banyana player and entrepreneur, and bongwe nhleko, bongwe nhleko, who is the ladies provincial rugby coach and head of sports for Greenside High School. How are you, ladies?
Okay, very well, thank you.
Fine.
We're good, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you for pulling through.
We are excellent, thank you.
And actually, let me start with you, Bongwe, because I think you and I go a while back, right? And since like 6 years ago, what you've been doing has been amazing, both as the provincial ladies rugby coach and now the head of sports at Greenside. What has that journey been like for you?
It has been an amazing journey. You know, every single challenge is a lesson for me. So it has been absolutely amazing. I wouldn't be this far if it wasn't for the lessons that I've learned. But yeah, as my mentor, you mentored me very well.
I did.
Yeah. So he mentored me very well. He was my mentor. So it has been absolutely amazing. From a player to manager to now being the sports director. So it has been an absolutely amazing journey.
Pinky, so you're a former Banyana player, right? You're a veteran, a former maestro, right? So since your playing days, the team has grown in leaps and bounds, both locally and internationally. What do you attribute those to, or that to?
Look, when I was playing, we had so many challenges. Obviously, we didn't have a league, we didn't have sponsors, and now things with the ladies right now, you know, football is evolving. There is a league, but it's not actually a professional league.
Okay.
But we in the right direction, if I may say so. And we have players that are playing overseas that they make an impact in terms of how they contribute in the national team.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Moonira, right? You are an entrepreneur in the sports administration field, right? And we are living in a digital age right now. What do you think? It's easier for an administrator to work in the industry right now?
No, I don't think it is.
Okay.
Look, I think, if we have to go to the digital space and the digital age, I think sport administration is very far behind compared to our European counterparts and our North American counterparts. Some organizations are making strides, but it's not enough, I think there's just so much more that can be done, that digital experience that can be enhanced to make sure that we get to experience sports on another level.
And then that being said, because we're behind, does it make it more difficult to be included in the sports sector as a woman?
Oh, it's always difficult to be included. I think you kind of always have to fight for your place and fight for your voice to be heard. People talk about patriarchy and misogyny, and it's real. It's definitely real. It's just, you find so many women that disappear because they can't deal with it, and you get some of us that just go, bring it on, we'll deal with you and we'll move.
So is that from every level, from a sub-federation level, provincial level, no support at all?
From my personal experience, I've experienced it at every level, every single level I've experienced. But having said that, though, I need to say that there is some people who would support you, and there is support. And I also feel that with us as the women in the space, we need to change it, because if we don't change it and we allow it to happen and continue, then we're not giving much hope to the little girl that wants to be a professional soccer player, rugby player, tennis player, you name it, you know. It's across sporting codes.
And Pinky, that being said, what structures, do you think there are any structures that are being put in place? I know Moonira just told us that we are behind, but obviously, even if they lie to us and tell us there's a succession plan, have you seen anything that says, listen, there's a future for ladies that are coming into this industry and they can have an imprint on this in this industry?
I think, like Moonira has mentioned, we still have a long way. And because we don't have these structures lined up for us, especially for women's football, we're not going anywhere. And it should start at your schooling development, because we don't have football in schools. Sports, to be in specific, we don't have any sports that are taking place in schools, and that's where the foundation should start. I mean, we've seen in Europe, in America. I mean, I've stayed in the US for the longest, and I know the development and the structure there is amazing. They start kids, you know, at a very young age. That they get exposed to going to stadiums and meeting all these players, you know. So they see them as they are, you know, they are celebrities, if I may put it that way. So, you know, they get that, they get that support, the motivation, you know, from seeing these players playing at the stadiums. And so we need that. So if we don't have that, we're not going anywhere.
So when you work in the school sports structures right now, right? And you are head of sports at a very prominent school in Joburg. What are some of the biggest challenges in that regard? Because the systems that Pinky has mentioned are seemingly non-existent in any other spaces as well, especially in the school sporting system.
I think the biggest challenge is the coaching. You know, not a lot of. I mean, we hire coaches, but we hire coaches out of experience and not out of. You know, when we take them to school, we make them do the workshops and all of those things. So we had a conversation now, no Sispinki, and we said, why weren't schools at the Banyana stadium, you know, which is a huge concern, because I mean the schools can afford to take kids to the stadiums. So I think where we missing the plot is also media. You know, we need to expose a lot of things in terms of schools. And she mentioned that at schools we don't have soccer, we don't have rugby, you know, and rugby now is turning up to be the biggest female sporting codes now. So we don't have those structures in place now. So we need to definitely, from a school's perspective, we are definitely trying our level best at Greenside to make sure that every single child participates in sports. I think it should be compulsory for a child to participate in something so that it activates the mind. Not only, some of them will excel, of course, because of skills and all of those things, but just to activate the mind. And you can never know where that basic skill can take you, because sports is not only about skills, it's about mental toughness, you know, because now there's a lot of depressions and all of those things. But sports has the power to actually take away those things and actually unite and grow as a whole.
I'm going to pose this question to all of you. Anyone can answer it, right? We clearly have had a development issue in South African sports across the board, right? Well, I'm going to single out football, especially our men's national team. I mean, because, I mean, we started at the top, and now we are nowhere to be seen, you know? How does a problem like that happen? Because to me, it makes no sense. I mean, if you're going to start and get inducted into world football and win the African Cup of Nations, and then after that, zero, what do we attribute that to? What happens? Is it complacency? Is it, I mean, because I study sports management, right? And I know a lot of people who study, most of my class are not even working in the sporting structures. Right, and I know people with brilliant ideas. So how do we? Is it the gatekeepers? What is it?
Okay.
Okay, I'll start. I think, yes, there's complacency, number one. I think it's poor administration as well, very poor administration. Going back to school structures, whether you look at the US or you look at your Australasia and stuff, you know, a lot of people always say, New Zealand and Australia will always qualify for the World Cup because they don't have competition. But has anybody ever bothered to go into their structures and study what kind of structures they have, even from a 5-year-old level at school level? And that's where it starts, you know. We have legends that are walking around that could be trained and put into these schools to grow, you know, development in those schools. And, you know, I know people will come back and say, no, but there is sport in school and there is football in school. Yes, there is in your former Model C schools, in your private schools. Yes, it definitely exists, because then they can afford to pay coaches and administrators and have a head of sport in the school. But what about your school out there, deep down there in Katlehong, that doesn't have that? They don't even have a soccer field. They don't even have a field. You know, what is being done for that? Because that's where your talent comes from. No disrespect to people that live in suburbs and stuff, but history has shown us that our talent comes from those areas, and that's the raw talent. And how do you take that and develop it? And nobody is bothering about that. You look at your local football associations today. How many? There's 300 some odd local football associations in the country. How many of them can put their hands up and say, I have an under 5 league, I have an under 7 league? I could literally count them in my one hand. As to how many exist. And look, it's not just, yes, we're speaking about football, but across the board as well. At least rugby has, they've got a brilliant program called Touch Rugby, where the little ones participate. They run a 6-week program or so in the different schools. I know like the Falca run quite a successful one, and they go into the schools that can't necessarily afford, your really underprivileged schools, and they start that program there, and they're able to develop and identify rugby players and stuff. Do we have that for football? No, we don't. That's why I call it poor administration and complacency.
So, Bingi, so now the question goes back to the more current situation. The ladies' national soccer team has just won the African Cup of Nations, right? How do we then make sure that there's a succession plan and we learn from our previous mistakes? How do we implement strategies to make sure that whatever form you're going through right now, one improves and then it's sustainable for the future?
Look, I think with the administration that we have right now and the policies that we have, I think we're not aligned, you know. There's a lot of people who, forgive me to saying this, but they're not doing their job correctly. And I think we need brilliant minds, you know, with ideas that can change the whole, you know, system and to improve our football. Because if we still have the same people who are running the footballing federation, they're not doing anything for women's football, so we're not going anywhere. So I think, let's take, for example, China. I think it was 6 years ago when China put a succession plan, a 10-year plan to say, look, we want to compete in the World Cup, but the mission was not to win it. But they went to the World Cup and they won it. It's because they had a vision to say, look, we want to educate coaches, we want to take them to school, we want to invest in our infrastructure, in our players. They did that, and this is the result that they gotten from that. Why can't we? She was saying, why can't we go and copy those countries? You know, like even Morocco just now. They're not a footballing women. I mean, women previously they were not playing football, and they come to now, and then they, you know, they were successful. They got to the finals. Why? It's because they did their homework. They invested in women's soccer. That's what we should do.
Awesome. Let's talk about something more positive, because now I'm going to get angry. When you tell me about some of your biggest wins in your life as a sports administrator and coach.
Some of my biggest wins, I think I started, well, when I go back to where I came from, I couldn't go to school because I couldn't afford it. My family couldn't afford it. Varsity, that's what I mean. And then I went and coached a Kaslam, Etswelelang. So I said, you know, just to keep myself busy.
Coach rugby?
Let me go, yes. I touch rugby.
Okay.
Then I was a touch. I recently started playing rugby, Shem.
Okay.
But with that, it was...
I know
we
there we are
escalated.
hamba.
Yes.
There you are fire. I've seen it.
We are going.
Yeah.
So, and then I went to coach at the school just to kill time. And then one of one of the guys, Utalisizwe Ndebele, identified me and said, no, you know what, let's change what you're doing and make it educational. So we called it Play to Learn. So, and then we did the program, Utalisizwe Ndebele. From there, he is the one that actually took me and said, go and coach. As Moonira said, I was then taken back to Greenside to go and coach there. So my career coaching there, I then became the sports assistant director. And then from there, 3 years now, I'm the director at Greenside High School. So that was huge for me. The Noria Sports Foundation identified me. We started a program called YES, so Youth Empowerment Through Sports, which is doing very, very well currently, just empowering young girls in making sure that administration, we do administration right, and you are young, you are fresh, fresh ideas. As well, now I was also approached by EUJ, University of Johannesburg, to come and coach rugby there for the senior ladies. And we went to Uganda last year. Actually, it was a tough one. But I'm sorry to say this, you know, that was the moment where I felt that nothing is impossible, because we're always scared to play against Tuks. I don't know why. But when I beat them in Uganda, I took it. I took it all. So
And I'm sure you brag about it, like,
no, I brag all the time.
you can
I
beat
tell
me here,
them,
but I beat you in Uganda.
You know, as well, it's just the empowerment of me not giving up in anything that I wanted to be. I've always wanted to be a provincial coach, and here it is, it's happening. I'm sitting as an executive committee member with the Golden Lions Rugby Union. Small steps, you know, and I say that we will, as much as we are, you know, hanging in there, but it will get there. It will get there. It's baby steps. We've got a long way, but it's baby steps, and those were some of my wins. That, you know what, from nothing to now empowering the world. That was the most important.
And I think I'll pose the same question to you, Moonira. I mean, what inspired you to come into this industry, and what are some of your biggest wins? Because you're an entrepreneur, and you footballing girls, women in sports. I mean,
You name it.
I mean that's amongst other things.
You know, I came into sport as a soccer mom. My son was 8 years old and he wanted to play football. And I took him down to the field, and the rest, as they say, is history. Before I knew it, I think within a year and a half, well, that same year, I was co-opted into the committee. And within the 2 years, I was then running the club. You know, look, I was fortunate in my journey that through work, I got to meet Jomo. And we had a conversation about football, and I was like, look, I'm involved in football. Can you come down and, like, you know, have a look at our boys and just motivate them and stuff? And he did.
Oh, he did?
He did.
Wow. You must be very,
You know?
must be very good.
He did. He came down, had a look at the boys, and we started talking, and I was like, look, we have boys that reach the age of 17, and then after that they disappear. And, like, can you see how you bring them into your systems and structures and stuff like that? And he agreed, and before we knew it, we had kids that were then moving to the Cosmos Academy. We had three of the boys that then signed on to play for his first team, and, like, you know, and moved on from there. So for me, that was great. That was awesome. And then, you know, footballing girls came about purely by, you know, dads and moms and little girls coming to me and saying, oh, you're in the space, and how do you, like, you know? And I was like, okay, I need to start something for girls. And it was, went on, registered a non-profit, and just went for a coaching course and a referee course. And I was like, okay, I'm going to do this. And decided to offer coaching clinics on a Saturday. And I remember vividly the first day that happened. I had 2 or 3 girls, and there were like 15 boys. One of the dads was a coach, so he brought his team from, I think the team was from Vosloorus or something, but it was young boys, man. And he brought his daughter and the daughter's friends. It was 3 girls. And then I said to him, okay, here, take this ball, give it to those boys and let them go play there. I don't want to see them, and give me these girls. And he looked at me odd, like, you know. And I said to him, I don't want to lose what I want to do, because if I incorporate the boys into the training, then I forget why I'm actually here. But, moved on from there, and before I knew it, it was a Women in Sport organization, and I won an award in 2017, and I was like, I want to have my own Women in Sports Awards.
Okay.
I want
Yeah. I mean, why not?
Why not? I want to look at women in the communities that are pushing girls' sport and young girls in there, and how do we create role models, within our very own communities. It's all good and well that you can look at them at national level, but where do they come from? And how do we get them to that? And then Women in Sports Awards was started. I mean, I have equipment drives. I collected soccer boots. It was... in between that, I was the first female chairperson of an LFA out in Ekurhuleni. But I think for me, I lived my biggest purpose through footballing girls, because it just continued to grow, but it grew with the need to say, how do I change a girl's life? How do I continue to make sure that she understands that she's the greatest that she can ever be? Because I was, within the space, I was consistently told that I was... not directly, but it's like, this is not your place. You don't belong here. It's not your space. And I must say, Jomo mentored me a lot within the space when it came to football politics, to sport politics. He really mentored me a lot within that space. Then it just moved from there. But I think, as I say, with footballing girls, I live my greatest purpose, because there's always something different. There's always something new. It's looking at, okay, so we have awards, but what do we do from there, How do we empower these women? And then I sit there and I'm like, okay, let's do a workshop for them. Let's develop workshop. Let's develop training courses. Let's develop a show, for women to tell their stories. Let's have a digimag. Let's do all these different things. So it's just that, I think it's great. I have no complaints.
It's amazing.
Thank you so much.
It is amazing.
It is, but it's also very difficult, because I think I'm constantly in a space where I am pushed to move into a corner. It's like, you shouldn't be that person. You shouldn't be that, it doesn't belong to you. You need to move aside, and somebody else needs to take that space. But if I do that, then what am I saying to that little girl that looks up to me or somebody else, So it's not the easiest of spaces to be, but I know what I want out of it. And I know that at the end of the day, things have to change for women in sport in this country. I think for me, one of my greatest wins out of it is definitely footballing girls, and how far it's grown and developed within the country, within everything that we do. But also credit must also go to my team. I have a fantastic team. I think I drive them crazy.
I can see that.
I like how you
I can see that.
I think I drive them
Because
crazy.
you can always tell the people with the big energies that I know. This one. She's laughing now, but when she gets back...
I think also for me, this year I'll be speaking at the IWG, which is the International Women's Group Women in Sport Conference.
Amazing.
And it's one of the things I've always wanted to do. So it will be taking, footballing girls out to a global stage, talking about one of the topics is how do you use recognition platforms to drive girls' sport development at community level. I'm also the chairperson of the Gauteng Women's Rugby Institute, by the way. We have two junior box.
Okay.
We have two
Do you
junior
want me to write
box.
these things down?
So the other topic would be on, high performance programs for young girls in rugby from underprivileged communities, why it's important. So I think, that would be great. I think that, I won 3 awards this year, by the way. I forgot about that.
No, so when do you sleep and raise this child that you speak of?
I've got 2 kids.
Oh, you've got 2.
But look, I think I always say, we can all sit and complain about a situation, but it's up to us to change it.
Definitely.
Because we can't wait for the next person to do it, because they might not do it or they will not do it. But if I want to see that change, I've got to be able to be the one that runs with it, that instigates it, that makes sure that it takes place. It's not the easiest, but it is what it is.
And Pinky, you were once one of those little girls that Moonira is talking about, right? Who are in her system, right? And she's definitely playing the important role of a catalyst and a pivotal role of being pivotal to their development as well, right? What was it like for you when you were growing up? Because I've seen you play, and you played with me as well.
I do.
Yeah, you know, and I'm just like, damn, okay, sure. You know, because it always catches you by surprise. 'Cause I didn't know Pinky was a former Banyana player. I was like, who's this lady coming to play with us today? And then, yeah, the rest is history. I won't say anything. So how do you think that would have impacted you if you had a support system like that?
Yo, damn it, man. I mean, like I said, growing up when we were playing, we didn't have nothing. We didn't have no sponsorship. We didn't have a proper league. We relied on interprovincial games. Like what would happen is that we had interprovincial games, tournaments, like they will rotate as per region. So teams will form they call like their best players to form a team, and then they'll represent their interprovincial games. And that's where we get exposed, you know, to be seen by coaches. And we'll have Sheikhs Mashaba, all these men coming to the games and selecting, you know, we didn't have women coming to the games and selecting, you know, the best players that they think they're suitable for the national team. So if we had this opportunity then, I think, man, I would have been very far. But I was privileged as well, because when I was playing, I think I was the first one in the national team to actually get a scholarship to go study in the US.
Okay.
You see. So it was not fashionable at that time. And I was, you know, I had a good foundation structure at home. My mother and my teachers at school, not only did they want to see me, you know, succeeding in my football career, but also my studies. And I think that's one thing that we should instill in our players, to say, look, as much as you're a good player, you need to have a backup plan and educate yourself, not only like in books, but have knowledge of what is happening around you, you know.
Because I know in America, you have to be really exceptional to get into a professional league without going to varsity.
Listen, in the US, the structure, most of the players who are playing in the national team, they're from colleges. And people pay actually to go watch college football. That's how massive and it is there. They pumping a lot of money into women's football. So I think if we had Moonira at that time, I think a lot of things would have, changed, and we'll see a lot of women, kids growing up, you know, playing football. Because we have parents right now who says, look, I have a daughter, but I don't want them to play football because there's nothing that they'll achieve in football, you know. So, but if we had people like Moonira, I think they will change. She will change a lot of mindset, especially when it comes to the parents.
Can I ask a controversial question? And I know I seem to be going back to. I'm going to ask this to you, Moonira, or you, Pinky. Either one of you can answer this, right? Because we had the recent SAFA elections as well that happened, right? You know.
Okay.
And seemingly from the outside looking in, it almost seems like Mamria is the only one fighting for women's football in South Africa. You know, I didn't want to make this a footballing conversation, but I'm intrigued at your feelings towards that. Would I be right to be saying that?
You know, Ria and I are very close. Eh?
Okay. Say hello to her for me.
I will. Ria and I are very, very close. So I think, you know, going into it, the conversations we've had around it, it was, yes, on paper, she definitely is, she should have been the right person to win. There's a lot of other things that go into it. But going into the campaign and into the elections, it was about how do we educate South Africans to understand what it takes within football structures, you know, because you get told that it doesn't matter, the public can say whatever they want to, they're not the ones voting. And the problem that needs to change is the guys that are voting. Are they voting because they care for football in this country, or are they voting because they need to secure their position so that they stay there in that position whether football continues to grow or not? And I think, you know, going into that, she was very much aware of that, very much understanding of that. I had a conversation with her the morning of the election, and I was like, okay, I'm not going to see you before you go in, but how are you? And she said to me, you know, Moonira, I haven't been allowed to participate in football activities since 2020 after we all know the controversial suspension. So, irrespective of what happens today, I'm still going to walk out of there as Ria Ledwaba.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what she did. But the one thing is that South Africans now understand how the football structures work. South Africans now understand what needs to be done to change football in this country. I was actually looking the other day and I laughed because I see our manifesto is being used now to drive all these different things. And it's like, okay, so she might not have won, but there's certain things that will change. It will not change at the pace that she would have changed if she was in. But South Africans now understand that they deserve better when it comes to football, and they know that. And those that are there also know that and understand that, you know what, it is what it is. South Africans deserve better because they do. And yes, should she have won? Awesome, it would have been great. But I think, you know, going into it, and I mean, I was part of the campaign team as well, we knew at the end of the day that it was 50-50. It was it, and we were prepared for whatever came, and more importantly, she was prepared for whatever came, because she walked in there as Ria and she walked out of there as Ria, and she'll always be Ria Ledwaba. That's it, you know. So yeah.
And I'm glad that now, because you have access to technology, there's access to information as well,
Yes.
so that the people know what's actually going on inside the structures, which was hidden from us for a very long time.
Yes,
you know?
yes.
We didn't know why Bafana didn't have a sponsorship. We don't know why we are under 17s, 20s, 23s. We don't even know what's happening. But that's how I'm going to close this part, because we could talk the whole day.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't know how long I've been sitting here, but I know I've been sitting here for... I can see Peter's eyes like, just glaring at me. I can't my battery. Ladies, thank you for joining me. It's been such an honor. It's been such a pleasure for having you guys here. Thank you for giving me your time. Thank you for giving us your time. And you watching, thank you for tuning in. This was Your Media's Big Words. Catch us on she24.ca, www.she24.co.za. That's right. Cool. Or you can catch us on YouTube or Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Your Media SA. That's where you find us, and that's where you'll find this interview. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Sure.